Hello everyone and welcome to the FilmDirt Lounge, and also welcome to the final Predator review of this series, for now at least. And just like the Alien films, there's a few ups and downs here. The best, in my opinion, are Predator 1 and 2. I actually really liked Predator 2. There's something crazy about it that is quite appealing to me. And I also liked Prey, and I reviewed that quite a while ago when it first came out. Direct to streaming just after Lockdown 2, I recall. And I'm not sure if it came out to theatres as well. All that time around lockdown is just a distant blur now, isn't it? Just a waste of 2 years of our lives, it seemed. Anyway, let's look on to today's review of The Predator, which came out in 2018. Very creatively titled with the at the front. And this is directed by Shane Black, who was in the very first 87 movie. And this one's without Robert Rodriguez this time. Well, quite a strange up and down movie. I think the tone here is all over the place. And you often hear of people mentioning how important the tone is to a movie, because it really defines what type of movie it is. And this one struggles to really establish to the viewer whether it's a horror or a comedy. And I know you can kind of have both, but it doesn't seem to work here very well, even though there are good points to this story, with quite a decent enough cast, headed by Boyd Holbrook as Quinn McKenna, and also Olivia Munn, and also a nice surprise to see Jake Busey, after his father Gary was a very huge part of the appeal of Predator 2. So I initially felt that the start of this film was brilliant. Nice tense scene with the sniper action going on. That in itself there was setting up quite a seemingly interesting story. But then the following scenes of comedy really, let the whole movie down. This band of fugitives being, I believe, carted off to somewhere else. And they're all comedians, but the comedy does work well, but I think it just goes on a little bit too long. And I think Michael Keegan Key is quite funny, but I think he's just over the top here. It's kind of out of place. And Thomas Jane as well, I think he's great, but just too comedic here. It almost seemed like there just needed to be more cuts, in these scenes in particular. But Sterling K. Brown, I thought was great as the main villain or one of the villains. Quite some solid acting, sprinkled throughout this story. The claim that the young boy needs to be abducted because it shows that he's got advancement in human evolution, let's say, wasn't really sold to me. The young boy Jacob Tremblay playing Rory with Asperger's, and it's made clear to the viewer that he has Asperger's. It's even said by one of his schoolmates to him. Now I know we've all got our own senses and we're super sensitive, and that's great, but I don't think it's significant enough to really bolster this story and ram it home. In some ways it seems like it's shoehorned in, as if it's some magical power. It was also interesting to see the return of the Predator dogs, and they seemed like a different species to the one we saw in the previous film. Just a bit concerned that they left one roaming around even though they knew it was there. They seemed to stop defending themselves after that skirmish. I'm sure they knew there was one still around. And the claim that the first Predator has got human DNA, I'm not sure what they're intending to say here, unless they're implying something else, that this species was first developed in a lab, or just this Predator in particular to complete the link maybe. But all this in-depth stuff really takes a back seat when the comedy starts. It just seems to be a little bit persistent and ongoing, and not very funny. Now I mentioned the first Predator. Even though this film is called The Predator, there's more than one of them. The huge one was very impressive, and I thought the visual effects on that effect was fantastic. I did actually think it was standing there in that space. The dogs, maybe not so much, but the big Predator, fantastic. And also here, when I was looking up some information on the history and the production of this film, that it was cut up and re-edited very close to the release. And I think the scene I mentioned earlier with the Predator dog roaming about, I think that was a casualty of that process, and some of these scenes maybe cobbled together and they went in a different direction. this film is possibly a little bit of a mess behind the scenes. And they could have taken it further by editing out some of the unfunny comedy. And it could have been just a fun 90-minute movie if they had. Okay, let's have a score. I can't help but just see this as an average movie at 2.5 stars. There's a lot here that I guess you could say just washed over me and didn't make enough of an impact. I had seen this film already in 2018 when it came out, and I didn't remember a thing about it. That's how memorable it was. I almost went into this revisit, quite fresh. It's just all a little bit forgettable. So just to close out again, this is the final part of my Predator Revisited series. I'll put links to all those reviews in the description below, including the one for Prey. And also I've just seen that they've greenlit a sequel to that film. And I'm quite relieved they've chosen to continue that story rather than redevelop another Predator story from scratch. Definitely looking forward to Prey 2. So, thanks again everyone for joining me. I'll be back soon with another movie chat for you. As they say, like and subscribe because I'd love to catch you again. All the best. It was good talking to you. Take care.